Hey guys, welcome to another developer interview here at PSVR without Parole. With me this week is Coolie Calihan, the principal artist over at Polyarc, working tenaciously, I'm sure, on Moss Book 2.
Yes.
Coolie, how's it going, man? How are you and the team doing? Gearing up, getting close to launch?
Yeah, we're doing great. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. We are in the home stretch. We are finishing up the Moss Book 2 project, and we're actually shipping on the 31st of this month, March 31st, 2022. So it's just a couple weeks away.
Just a couple weeks away. And has the game been in development since the end of Moss Book 1?
Yes, it was a pretty much just immediately after the first Moss project shipped. The team started working on the second book, and they did do the Twilight Garden expansion in the interim. So sort of a small team broke off and worked on that, while others started working on the sort of larger shape of the project.
And where do we find Quill at the beginning of Moss Book 2? Is it directly after where Moss Book 1 left off, or is there
That's
going to
right.
be a recap? Are we going to have to play? I mean, most of our audience has played the first game, but in case they haven't,
Hmm.
should they play the
Yeah.
first game? Are they not going to have any idea what's going on with this little mouse?
Well, of course, I'd love it if they played the first game, but you certainly don't need to. We recognize that this is a sequel, so some people might just be picking this up. Maybe they were hesitant to buy the first game, but they've heard that it was a good title, and so yes, Moss Book 2 picks up precisely in the place that the first game stopped. So Quill has been on this hero's journey to find her uncle Argus, and no spoilers, but she reaches her destination, finds her uncle, and they embark on the next stage of their quest, which is to explore the castle and find out how to take down the arcane.
Um, Now, I could ask probably the most important question we're gonna talk about today, and that is the Without Parole viewers, people that watch this channel, are called the Game Cats. How do you
Yeah.
feel about a bunch of felines having control of the fate of this tiny little mouse?
Well, I've seen some videos where cats and mice can coexist. Maybe however sneakily as the mice do, but no, I welcome the challenge. If you can successfully go on Quill's adventure with her, then we are more than happy to have you.
And how familiar will people be with the gameplay mechanics here with the second game? If they played the first game, is it going to play pretty much like the first, just new environments, and a couple new puzzles, or are you revamping anything from the ground up?
There's definitely been some pretty big feature improvements in Moss Book 2. One of the things that we like to sort of put at the center of our efforts is making sure that we're building on the physical interaction of the first game. Reaching into the world and interacting with devices and enemies and with Quill is really, it's a unique part of VR, and it's something that our players have loved. They've loved interacting with Quill and helping her get through these worlds, and so we've expanded the number of things that you can interact with in the world. More things are going to react to just you and Quill moving through the world. Like plants will move and the grass kind of sways as she moves through it. And then there's also new abilities that you, as the reader, have that you'll gain as you progress through the story. And you sort of earn these new abilities that help you accomplish your task. You have an ability to actually paint vines on surfaces and help Quill climb up those vines. And then you can also draw a bridge of vines from certain points in the map, and it'll create a bridge that Quill can then run across. And then, or maybe you actually need to drag an enemy across it. So with all of these new mechanics and all of these new ways to reach into the world, the puzzles are more intricate and the combat is more intricate and more involved. And you'll be, reaching in to interact things with things while you're actually, engaged in combat. And then, of course, the battle with Sarfog at the end of the first game, this big set piece moment with this very large enemy. We've more of that in the second game as well, because there's more threats, and these threats are quite serious, as players will find.
Nice. Now, there's also, from what I've heard, going to be some more, maybe some NPCs, some more storytelling. Is how is this all going to be implemented without pulling the character, or without I'm sorry, without pulling the player, out of the game too much?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a big challenge to get that right because in VR you can be looking anywhere, and Quill is so small. We want to make sure that players are actually seeing the content that we make. So it's fully sensory guidance that we try to do with audio and with visual effects and animations and lighting to draw the player's eye somewhere. And then we also can track where the player is looking to make sure that things happen just at the right moment. So it can kind of feel magical at times where you're looking around and then you look down at something and something happens as if it was just the way that it was always supposed to be. And Moss Book 2 is a very cinematic game. There's a lot of story, there's a lot of dialogue. You'll be meeting old friends, and you'll be making new allies, and that will happen all in the game. But then there's also the library that players will remember from the first game. The library is getting updated as well, and there's going to be new. The library is going to be a bit more dynamic than it has been in the past, and so we do a lot of storytelling in that environment as well.
Interesting. Out of all the things I thought could use updating from the first, I never even considered, hey, what can we do with the library? So I'm really interested to see
Mm-hmm.
what you've done with that.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of speculation over on Without Parole about what changes you could make for Moss Book 2. And again, not the library,
Ooh,
but I'm that's so cool.
that's fun.
But one of the things that I personally was wondering was if you were going to stick completely with the whole diorama feel, or if there was
Mm-hmm.
ever a temptation to do something with the dynamic camera, like
Mm-hmm.
bring the player down to Quill's level and like see what the world looks like from a mouse's size and a mouse's perspective. Does that happen in the game? And if not, were you ever tempted to do something like that?
That's a really cool idea. I love the idea of like swapping perspectives with Quill. That's a new one. I haven't heard that idea before. We have talked about ways in which we can have a more dynamic player camera in the world, and we did for Moss Book Two have we invented a new system called the camera cut, which is instead of going from room to room as it has always been the case. One room may have multiple cameras. So our biggest rooms, you'll actually be, you'll be in one room, but then the camera will be shifting and moving along as you progress. So it will feel very similar. And comfort is a major pillar of the game that we make sure we are always respecting the players, nausea or sometimes even in some of these scenes, there's big things moving in front of you, right? And we're just extra careful to make sure that it is a comfortable experience. But that's not to say I don't think we're done innovating with the camera in Moss, and that's a pretty good one. I like it.
Nice. Can you tell me a little bit about um, this is I want to phrase this so that you can just sort of like give me a great sound clip about it.
Yeah.
But I basically can you talk to me about upgrades and and about how it'll change the exploration of the world, and about how backtracking is now a necessity.
Hmm. Absolutely. So Quill will be, gaining access to new abilities and new weapons, just like the player will be gaining access to new abilities, and the player will take them with them, and Quill will take her weapons with her. And that opens up a whole new world for puzzles that you might not be able to solve in the first time you're in the room. And so you'll notice something that's off limits, and it's pretty obviously off limits, and you think to yourself, "Wow, there's really no way I can get there." And then you might notice a hint on the ground, like there's some strange marking here. I'm not sure what that means. And so then you play through the game a little bit more, and you find out that there you'll gain an ability that sort of click, and players will realize I can use this to get around to areas that have been inaccessible before. And then we're going to take you back on a path, on the main path, and give you opportunities to pass by those areas, and then invite you to explore them. So it's all been sort of a very deliberate effort to give the player branches where they can go explore, and then help them get back to the main path in a way that hopefully isn't too much of a slog or doesn't feel like a chore.
Are you reluctant to use the term Metroidvania?
Definitely not. I mean, like we have a lot of inspirations that we draw from Metroidvania type games. So I think there's in each of our hearts is an indie dev that just wants to make the coolest VR Metroidvania game. But I think what's really important about Moss is that we found really great guiding design constraints that gave us a ton of focus, and like on the team we were very aligned as to like what is this game. Like we all know what makes the game great, so we can just agree and then start working on the real problems, which is implementing complex content with all of these different moving parts. And I think it's best, we've innovated and created new design mechanics for Moss Book 2, but we've also, interwoven them into the narrative. So, there's a reason for why the world is the way that it is. And we're excited to, um, I think there's just a lot of fun surprises in stores for players.
Excellent. Well, we don't want to ruin all the surprises, but I've heard there might be some collectibles in this game, and I am such a collectathon.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just going to say I'm a collectathon whore. Man, I like getting the trophy for getting half of them, then 75% of them, then 100% of them, and then ultimately the platinum trophy. What kind of collectibles can we get in this game?
Well, scrolls are coming back. Scrolls were a collectible in the first game, but an upgrade that we've made to that whole system is now in the hub room of the game, which is sort of like it's where the spokes kind of go off from. You'll actually see progress of your scroll collection in the game world, and so as you find all of the scrolls, you're kind of piecing together the complete version of this room. And so it'll be really satisfying once you finally find all of those pieces and everything's kind of in its place. And then on top of that, we've also got Dust, and Dust is making a comeback from the first game, and that's the colorful stuff you see coming out of all the pots and the breakables in the game. And that dust will then, there will be things that you can get from having a certain amount of dust that we're really excited for players to explore and discover for themselves.
Ooh. Good. Yeah, I don't even want to ask a question. I don't want to ask a follow-up question because I want that to be a surprise when I sit down and play this for myself.
Very cool.
I think one of the few complaints people lodged against the first game was that it was kind of on the short side. I mean, you guys were sort of like in line with everything else happening in VR then, but I think maybe around 4 hours, 5 hours, depending on your skill set. How much bigger is Moss Book 2 than Moss Book 1?
We've just been kind of earmarking it as like 1.5 times the size of Moss 1. So it should feel like a longer game. I think it's kind of like a good way to think about it because, if you're a person who beat Moss really fast, you might be a skilled gamer. You might just be able to pick up all the mechanics right off the bat and just, solve the puzzles quickly. There's definitely that, like we have those types of players in the studio, and, we have them play testing the game all the time as well. And so, we try to make the game smooth. We try to make it, fun to play quickly. But it's going to kind of be a representation of like, how long did you take to play it? To sort of think of this game as like 1.5 times longer than that. Like if you take a longer time to play it, then it's going to take you a longer time to finish it because there are more rooms. The puzzles have more elements to them. There's more big boss battles. So there will be, a longer experience, no matter what your play style is.
And how's the PlayStation VR 2 version looking?
Well, we've been 100% focused on the PSVR version. But I
Sorry.
can tell you that the team is super excited about the new tech that's coming for the PSVR 2. We can't wait to get our hands on it and start playing with it and start making content for it. It's going to be a big step forward for VR games, and it's cool to see PlayStation being right there in the mix with everybody else. Pushing the bar, pushing the media forward in a big way. So they're definitely leading in their new the new features that they're bringing to VR. Is they're going to find themselves, I think, with some really exciting pieces of tech that nobody else has. So really excited for what's next.
I don't know if you can talk about your relationship with PlayStation. So
Mm.
tell me no if you can. But uh,
I mean, we're great partners with them. I can say that much.
the first Moss was exclusive for a set amount of time, and this
Mm-hmm.
seems to be exclusive to PlayStation VR for a set amount of time. Is
Mm-hmm.
is is this just because it was the lead platform, or is there a deal with Sony on this?
Well, this is the lead platform. This is like the all of our efforts up to this point, and even probably to a little bit beyond, because we'll of course need to be fixing bugs and monitoring the live release. But yeah, we've been 100% focused on PSVR, but Sony's aware of how you know other VR headsets are out there, and they recognize that the Quest has done really well, and selling the game on the Quest is a great thing for us, and it helps us, make more content. It helps us grow. It helps us fulfill our creative ambitions better. And so I think that they're totally, they're a great partner in the way that they partnered with us to make this game. This is a PSVR game, but in the future, we're absolutely gonna be bringing it to other platforms as much as we can and as quickly as we can. Within everybody's going to take a little break for a little bit, a well earned break to enjoy some time off, but then work will pick right back up on bringing this game to as many people as we can.
One of our viewers was curious about something. All Yours History asked, Moss came out 8 months before Astrobot. So now that you've all gotten a chance to play Astrobot and see a different take on a third-person platformer in VR, did
Mm-hmm.
that at all influence the design decisions for Moss Book 2?
I don't know if there was any direct design decisions that were made like in response or because of Astrobot, but I can definitely say that we all played it and we loved it. Like it's one of my favorite PSVR games. It's one of my favorite VR games. It's super innovative and creative, and I love all of the physical interactions they have. Like talking about like physical interactions in VR bringing joy. Like I think that they do it better than anybody. Like
Yeah.
it's just so fun to play in their world, and their characters that they've created and the mechanics they've created are super fun. So huge hats off to them for making such an awesome game. I think I see some of the things they're doing with camera movement, and I get really excited about like swimming underwater through a cave, right? Like still feels really good, and so they've I think solved some problems with comfort in a way that I think is really clever and elegant, and so would love to explore those ideas more in our work, but that's just me.
Right on, right on. Well, Cooley, thank you so much for hanging out with us and talking about Moss Book 2. We're obviously really, really excited for this, and it's great that it's coming out so soon in this time where, PSVR 2
Yeah.
is, I mean, I'm sorry, in this time where PSVR 1 is having its sunset year. It's
Mm.
really nice to see a big game like this that we've been looking forward to for a long time. So hopefully
Hmm.
everyone out there is excited about this game, Moss Book 2 by Polyarc. Cooley and his team coming March 31st. Do we have an official price point on this yet?
I don't know if there's a price on it.
All right,
I don't think we've announced that yet.
we won't say that then. And the last thing I'll ask of you is to
Okay,
give a big meow and a swipe, a big meow to all the game cats out there, if you don't mind.
I could do that.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Cooley. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure. And thank you so much for helping us get the word out about Moss 2.